Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt. We are doing our Illinois WorkNet webinar right now on creating a social media policy. What we're going to do is we're going to cover the points you need to include when creating a social media policy so that you can implement it for your company. And as we get going today, one of the big things that I love is the social media policy from Zappos. Tony Shea, the CEO, just wants his staff to be real and use your best judgment. That's what their social media policy has been for many years now, since companies have been doing social media policies. One of the other ones that is very smart but very, very direct and to the point is Best Buy's. It says be smart, be respectful, be human. And there is a link on this slide to the full Best Buy policy. It does have some more definition to it, but it is still very simple, very direct, very useful for everybody who is going to be using their social media policy. One of the things that we want to do is we want to talk about why have a policy. First of all, a social media policy outlines for employees the corporate guidelines or principles of communicating in an online world. And as we probably have had in policies and procedures in the past, we've had an internet usage policy, but because social media kind of came on and with a charge, there wasn't always the inclusion of the social media when it was talking about internet. So what this does is it provides a guide for your employees. It sets boundaries. What can they do? What can't they do? And it helps you by establishing a baseline for the employees in your company. Social media often represents several things. It will portray your company culture and your brand. You want to ensure that whatever is presented on social media platforms of any kind is that it's going to represent your company and carry your message out to the customers and to your competitors in your industry. You also want to ensure that social media will fulfill your company objectives about how you will secure leads and generate sales. So it's not just about what they're saying, but how it represents everything about your company. It doesn't matter if you're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Google+. Your company personality online is part of your overall brand. It becomes the interactive experience that your potential customers and your existing customers, as well as your employees, see about your business. So representing your company, becoming the face and voice of your brand, what do you let those people share? Establishing a policy will help all of that fall into place. How will you develop your policy? Who will help you create it? So the developer or developers of the policy should have a vested interest in the company and know that company's culture, brand, industry, and objectives, what we just talked about in the previous slide. While it may not necessarily be up to just one individual, maybe it's a group, they have to be able to decide what is truly best for the company when it comes to representing your company on social media. Communications is the next key point. Will the person or persons in your company be representing your business on social media and other online channels? Are they in chat forums? Are they in help desk forums? Where are they on the internet? And do online channels help you reach your company goals? Meaning that is the sales, and will it help you increase your business or save time or money by using some social media? Who can or should have access to social media? And one of the things that I'm suggesting here is that you may want to perform a SWOT analysis on your company using social media. What are the strengths of using it, the weaknesses? What opportunities are presented? And what kind of threats might there be from using social media? And how can you overcome those? So it boils down to, is social media a company-wide initiative or only something for specific job descriptions? If only particular employees can use social media, then you need to describe who those particular employees are. Your policy, what it all boils down to is what an employee can do, what they cannot do, and what they should do. Making sure that you're spelling it out in a policy can make a world of difference. So some of the points that you need to consider as you're creating your social media policy is, who can use social media in your company? Can everybody use it or only specific individuals? Spell that out in your policy, and then you would tell them who gives them access to that. When can they use it? Are they using social media to represent the company on company time, or are they using social media on their own time? So can they use the social media on their breaks and lunches, or are they able to surf and be brand ambassadors during company time? It's all things that you need to consider while you are creating that social media policy. Who gives approval? If it's a large company or a governmental body, they may have multiple social sites that represent the various arms of an organization. I remember I used to work for some county government, an organization within a county government, and each different major department had their own social media representation governed by that department. It was not overseen by a general information officer for the county. So who gives the approval of that social media representation? Who will monitor what's being shared so that you make sure that your company is represented for your brand? Number 4 is, how will the employee represent themselves? For example, if they're on their company time, will they have an email or a handle, a Twitter handle is what people call it, that includes maybe their name and the first name of their first name and the name of their company? So for example, maybe it's D Illinois WorkNet, or maybe it's just D. If you're blogging about or writing about on social media about your work for IBM, if you work for IBM, the company encourages that representative to use their real name, be clear about who they are, and identify that they work for IBM. But if an employee might be engaging on social media personally, they shouldn't use the company's name in their identity. So you need to spell that out in your policy. Some employees continue to promote and represent a company outside of a typical 9-to-5 job, requiring them to follow your company's social media policy at all times so that it prevents potential embarrassment. What it boils down to is make sure that people represent your brand all the time if they are going to speak on behalf of your company. We've had some incidences in the news. People like news reporters, professional athletes, community leaders, marketing heads, or public relations people, they represent their companies and their businesses all the time. They may be well known and may be associated with their organization, and a misstep may be construed as being a representative of that company. So it's always best to maintain a professional representation of yourself on any social or online communication outlets. Is there already an ethics policy in place for your company? The social media policy should be consistent with any ethical policies that you have for your company. Number 6, how will you manage consistency? you can do that by offering assistance to new staff who are allowed to use social media so that they have it all set up according to brand standards. As a business, the more consistency and relevance in your search engine marketing and social media marketing strategies, the stronger your chance is to connect with your targeted audience. That will help you gain brand loyalty. This would include any icons, backgrounds, any other images associated with representing your company on social platforms. It may also include providing training during orientation if your employees are going to be engaging with clients on social media. For example, customer service reps who answer questions and watch for tweets or posts need to provide feedback. How will they go about doing that? Number 7, will you use disclaimers? If disclaimers are required, that means I am not writing this as a representative of the company, or I am writing this and I am employed by this company. It just helps people make sure that they may not be held responsible for someone's comments if those disclaimers are required. It can also make things less casual for that poster that can hinder the overall attitude of social media. So deciding whether or not you're going to require a disclaimer of your employees is something that you need to consider carefully. Whoops. What are some additional suggestions? You need to insist that people resist the urge to lash out in public. You want to make sure that you take things offline. If there's something that gets heated, you want to make sure that you're taking it offline to answer or have that communication with that potentially irate customer. You want to make sure that your employees are respecting proprietary information. For example, if you have a new product being released, who's allowed to release the information first? When can employees talk about it on social media, and how long after the release date are they allowed to do that? Additionally, employees need to know what other internal policies are there before they begin posting on behalf of the company. And remember, it's good to be timely with a response, but you need to pause and reread a post before you reply to somebody's comment. Remember, there's no visual cues, there's no nonverbal cues that you can read, so what you write on social could be potentially dangerous. So take a moment. If you're not sure of your answer, have somebody reread it. Most importantly, people need to be able to use common sense, but we all know that not everybody has good common sense 100% of the time. So being able to explain what common sense means in your policy may be necessary to write that out completely. And remember, play nice. That golden rule may apply here. So take a look at what's going on with your policy and consider some of these other ideas. Policy. Policy just sounds so policey, but it is put in place to protect your company, protect your brand, your image, and quite possibly your employees from doing something that could result in a termination. So here's the big question. Can you fire an employee for complaining about the job on social media? That's the big question. And the answer is it depends. So let's take a look here at our next slide. A couple of major guidelines, and these are what you might want to use when you're considering your policy as you're writing it. You want to take into consideration reason. Simply put, use reasonable etiquette, the same as you would offline. So be polite, say please and thank you. Represent yourself. Anonymous profiles lend themselves to more negative content. So Make sure that your people, if they are representing your brand, they're using your name or their name at your company. Responsibility. Make sure that what you're saying is factually correct, and also that it doesn't violate any legal guidelines that prohibit revealing information that is material to a company's stock price. That's that proprietary information again. Respect. What you say online is a permanent record. If it's on the internet, it stays on the internet. Somebody will be able to find it. So don't say anything online you wouldn't feel comfortable saying to the whole office with a camera rolling. Restraint. Before you hit that send button, pause, reread. We just talked about that. If you wouldn't want that particular thought or contribution forever associated with your name, don't post it. Even if people remove a post, somebody has seen it at one point in time. Now, there was an article, and there is an article posted on the bottom of this slide, and it says it is legal to vent about your employer on a personal account if you're speaking on behalf of a group of employees and if your intention is to improve the conditions of your job. What I want to do is I want to tell you that most of the information that's found that relates to social media policies is all from 5 or 6 years ago. Somewhere from 2008 to 2011 is what most of the information is on. The National Labor Relations Board in 2013 developed some guidelines for employers, and that's where this article from Forbes is based upon, about how employers can be treated. And I just found an article on this same topic about whether or not you can fire an employee or not from 2015. And I want to quote a few things from this U.S. Today, and I'm going to put this link in the chat pod right now so that you can take a look at this link for your future reference. The government protects workers' rights to say what they want about where they work, even if it's in a vitriolic and insulting tweet or post. It's illegal for an employee to be fired for a post about working conditions, whether it's pay, hours, assignment, difficult supervisors, dress code, or any other issue. So employers shouldn't try to restrict workers' freedom of speech or retaliate if there's a post that they don't like. What's important to remember is that it has to be about working conditions. The NLRB is effectively taking the position that commentary about working conditions on social media is completely protected. The NLRB said that a restaurant illegally fired 2 employees for taking part in a Facebook discussion of problems in how income tax was withheld from paychecks. The discussion mentioned a meeting about the issue. One employee was fired for a comment that contained an expletive describing one owner, and the other was dismissed for liking a post because the posts were related to working conditions and the employees were discussing concerted activity or jointly seeking a resolution of their problems. The posts were protected. The NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, reversed the firings. Owners also can't resort to any other disciplinary measures like suspensions, reprimands, pay cuts, or promotion denials. Now, the NLRB will uphold firings based on posts that damage a company, disparage its products or services, or reveal trade secrets or financial information. So those things are all actionable items for a human resources organization or department to take action on. The gray area is when a post is critical of a company's service, a company or their services, but is also related to working conditions. Posts encouraging insubordination are not protected, and one case upheld an employer's decision not to rehire workers who had posted plans to show up at the job and not do any work. Employees can also be fired for posting information about clients or customers, and if their posts are racist, homophobic, sexist, or discriminate against a religion, companies should fire workers rather than be seen as tolerating or condoning the employee's views. Griping or insults by an employee that have no connection to working conditions are not protected. For example, one that ridicules the way a boss looks, dresses, or speaks, the employee can be fired. What you really need to do is your company should have a written social media policy spelling out what employees can post. We talked about what they can do, what they can't do, and what they should do. It should be specific with examples of what's acceptable. And you want to review the policy with your lawyer or an HR specialist to be sure that it wouldn't violate any federal, state, or local laws. If a staffer has made a negative post about the company, get advice from an employment law attorney or a human resources provider before taking disciplinary action. And there are CHRs that are available for hire. So if your company is not big enough to have one of your own HR persons, then you can contact or contract with one of those to represent you or to help you on a part-time basis. So, do you want to review some ideas before you write? This first link, the socialmediagovernance.com/policies, they have about 240 policies from a variety of industries and businesses that you can take a look at before you write yours. The second link on this page is a policy tool, a wizard policy tool that has 12 steps to help you write a basic social media policy. And I did that just as to see how easily it worked. And it took me maybe about 10 minutes to get it all done, and I had a workable social media policy that I could present to my corporate attorney before I needed to move forward. Additionally, we have a link, a set of links here with articles and examples, guidelines, references that I've quoted today. These are all things that you can review. And if you download the PDF that is in the download and print section, you are able to just click on all of those links. So thank you for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed the webinar. If you are watching the recording, you can find the PowerPoint in our SlideShare files so that you can download the handout. Now, before we go today, I would like for you to take a moment just to let us know a couple of thoughts about the webinar itself. So if you could answer our poll questions, I would appreciate it. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to type them into the chat pod. And thanks very much for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.